Okay, so as you know, last week, Shanna was here coming through classrooms and everything. They'll be coming on a 2-week rotation here because if with FAST and the way school grading is going to be this year, even though we're held harmless, it is still just based on proficiency. So we are looking at our level 2s to see who we can move to be proficient, okay? And that was the purpose of her visit. So they're going to be on that 2-week cycle because they're worried about some schools that traditionally proficiency is not the way we make the grade, it's the gains, which is, we're one of those places. So we've changed up a little bit of plans, like with team time, we're going to change a few things as we kind of get down the road after we look at some of this. But what we did is pulled the exemplars. We also have some other data pulled that's hidden that we're going to show you in a minute. But just take a look at the exemplars. And if you'll look at the color coding system we have over here, the yellow is somebody we want to look at, we want to talk about, we want some feedback on, okay? The green is their in. So because we were charged with making a plan for our level 2s. So we've looked at the data to say, okay, these level 2s have to go into whatever this plan is for support. The yellows are, we're going to look at, we got to talk about. Pink is they're under 2 years, so they don't count for school grade. Doesn't mean we're not going to worry about them, but they don't count. And then orange is the outliers.
Under 2 years for what?
ESOL. Yeah, I was just saying. Okay. Thank you. So the orangey color is that outlier color. Okay, so that means something is off when we look at their data. And again, we're just looking at data, so we don't know what it is that's off, right? So we're working through that. So this is just a preliminary look-see of what we have found, okay? So just take a look at the exemplars. This is just the exemplars.
One thing we want to caution you when you're looking at this is if you look at second student down, you'll see that their first exemplar is a 50%, but it is in green.
Oh.
So take those numbers into consideration as you're looking at the data along with the colors that are on here. Because we would typically say this student was a yellow. So think about that, 50% to 70% is yellow. Anything below a 50% would be red for us. So just kind of look at this, and I'll scroll down so you guys can get an idea. When you look at this, our exemplars look outstanding. Look at our data. I mean, you're teaching it, they're mastering it according to the color schemes. So I'll scroll down so you guys can take a look. And we understand, like this student right here doesn't have the first 2 exemplars. We know that they started towards the end of the quarter.
What about Olivia? Like the ones that are white? What was that?
Oh, good question. So Olivia on here, she has what would be considered level 4s, and a green is a 3. So we looked at her and said, okay, she's scoring where she would need to be proficient. So we left her alone.
Okay, so
She doesn't need extra support at this point in time. At least that's what we, at our first glance, that's what we said. Still open for discussion because you're her teacher.
And then we get down here to where the students are red, where they are truly low level 1s and they're white, because again, these are going to be conversations we'll have. Do they really meet the criteria to be proficient at this point? Are they students that we need to put on watch, or are they students that we know 3rd grade's not their year to be proficient? Are there any shocks, any awes, any oh my goshes that you guys start processing that as you're looking at the data?
I would just like looking at the yellow, like for instance, which one is that, Nicholas? The very last one, like a 29. Yeah, right there. All the way at the end, 29. That's considered like, well, level 2, but to me, like that's not where I would want it to be to consider that, so I would still leave that one on watch. colors, like the
And so he
The
is showing up
ranges.
in,
Oh.
my bad.
Oh.
like I would want it to be a stronger one personally.
And
Like not just
so,
him, but I mean in general. I feel
Again,
like
these
the
are the colors that are put out, but we know a 29 to us would be a level 1.
yes, just
So what is 40?
exactly.
So we put him up there for discussion in that orangey color because that's what we know the color system should be. Because that's what our Orangewood color system is. Remember, this is the district color system. So he's a discussion point because you may say, or Stephanie may say, oh, no, he's really straight red, or no, he really could be straight 2s and could potentially be proficient.
Actually was spent like a whole last night trying to figure out how to do this MTSS paperwork fields.
Okay.
Right, just that one, Leon.
I just meant like the cutoffs.
Yes, no, I know.
Sorry,
But
I
I'm
didn't mean
sorry,
to throw them out there.
No, you're fine.
That's what we're here for.
And again, this is just exemplar data. In just a second, we'll open it up so you can see prior FSA. For the students that are in our class, you can see the FAST and the iReady.
And this is just
That's what I'm
This is
saying.
just math.
So they're level 2s based on fast? Or,
They are level 2s based on FAST,
okay.
except for the kids that have an FSA score. So like in 4th and 5th grade, it's based on FSA.
Yeah, I just mean these kids right here.
No, that's FAST.
What does the bluish color mean again?
We think they're in.
So what we mean by we think they're in is we have opportunities to do tutoring, PE waivers. We have opportunities where other teachers from other grade levels are going to push into our classrooms if it's during a time they're available to support in small group. So these are kids we know that are in and we want the focus on them when they come into the classrooms.
You want to say Valerie's great when she's here.
Mm-hmm. And we have a notes column too, because that would be a good thing to put in the notes. Absentees are an issue. Because when we look at some of these kids that are in the blue, or even when we consider the orangey color, that's where we're coming in for the notes column to see what info you all have based off what you know of them as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the top and I'm gonna open up the other columns.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh.
So this is why we wanted to show you guys the exemplars. So as we went through the data and we looked, like the top student here, look at her scores on the exemplars, but look at her progress monitoring, her iReady data. It shows her straight across the board a level 1. But if you go over here, she technically could potentially be a level 3. So if you look at the data to the right and you look at the progress monitoring, what's one thing you have an aha on right now?
Well, isn't the progress monitoring technically supposed to be low at the beginning because they haven't learned 3rd grade yet? So if they have a red, it's, at least to me, I would say looking at the exemplars would be more important because that's going to show if they're going to raise. Does that make
Correct.
sense?
So what it's showing is, yes, progress monitoring, iReady is the entire year.
Mhm.
So now what we'll want to do is pull the progress monitoring too once it's done, pull the domains, and see if the domains we have taught they're retaining.
Okay. That's,
So
yeah.
quarterly comprehensive 1 is not in here. We're going to throw that in and we're going to continue this conversation next week with our quarterly comprehensives in there. Because when you look at the data, there's a chunk of our kids that have retained it, and then there's some that are on the bubble. So we'll have more conversations through the process of this. But just looking at this, you kind of can see. So if you go down here to this student right here, and you see that he is a strong level 2 last year on FSA. He's a level 2 for fast math and a level 2 for iReady. And then you get over here and he's a level 3. Technically this would be a level 2 and a level 3. This student has that potential. So that's how we want you guys to look at it, is look at where they're at keeping in mind that some of the level 1 students, we know that this is the beginning of the year, this is the baseline. So take a minute and start looking at the data. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you so you can start specifically looking at it. But I'm not going to have you as editors. So I'm going to share it so you guys can look at it more in depth, and then we'll go back and add notes. This way you guys can start looking at it and start processing like notes and how you feel about your students and their data. So if we look at the top student, which is mine and Chelsea's student, let's have a conversation. How do you feel would she potentially be a proficient student, do you think?
Yes, especially if the effort is put into it. I do feel like she's been using her accommodations more, which I think has helped significantly.
So looking at her exemplar scores, now quarterly comprehensive is going to come into play. We need to start thinking of, so this student looks like she potentially could be a 3. What are we going to do now for her?
She's going to need a strong push to maintain. I know Izzy works with her daily, and I see her daily in small group. So I think really continuing that and spiraling as well during small groups so that it's retained would help.
And once it's all finalized, we'll pull in their quarterly comprehensive onto here. Because we did look at a couple kids' quarterlies that were in to see what they're retaining. And some of them did retain a good amount, but we only spot checked just because they weren't all in yesterday.
So as we go through your students next, and the reason why we made them orange and called them an outlier was because of their scores on the exemplars versus their baseline progress monitoring and iReady. So going back, remember that's the whole year.
Her biggest problem is staying in class because she's used.
Okay.
Like when she wants to work, when she's in a good mood and wants to work, she gets it. She's very, like, I feel in my mind, bright. But like calling home when she's acting out, like they don't. For her, being in school is not a big deal to her family.
Okay, so if you go to the next student and we look at this student and we look across the board, they're slated to be a level 1. So that's why they're white, that's why they are staying white. What supports could we put in place to help this student? It's your student. What insight can you give us that we could help him with?
I don't know, there's something not clicking with
Okay.
as a,
Is he an MTSS?
yeah,
Okay.
so we're
Okay.
doing those, but it's just. it's
Is
not
he-
gonna be
Is he MTSS for math or just reading?
reading.
Okay, so we may want to look at considering MTSS goals for him for math.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's MTSS goals for her.
It can be.
Yes.
Can I, is it okay if I go back real quick?
Yes.
I just had a quick thought. So looking at Selma
Yes.
on her comprehensive, she is in the green, but it was a 54. So that's why I feel like the spiraling really needs to happen because we got to keep it there.
Right. And once everything's in, there were a few kids missing, we'll add that and that conversation will
Just
continue to next week.
Just a thought.
We'll look at that and see what kids are retaining and what kids.
But you're right.
But even if
That's
it's
what we saw.
green, she's green, but it's a 54.
Right.
So like,
That's district colors, not our colors.
but just saying like, so she's
Well,
really
and when you looked at the comprehensive before you gave it, did you really think some of those questions were at the level of DOK that they were saying they were? Because I mean, I took the quarterly comprehensive yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, like, it starts easy and then it gets harder as it goes. So like,
Right.
Towards the
However,
middle.
some of them that were
Easier.
higher, yes.
Some of them that were listed as a level 4
I didn't think.
said identify. So to me, that's not a level 4. Even the skill it was asking them to do, like the equation was not a level 4. So that's a concern that I had when I took the test yesterday was, if they do really well on this, is that really gonna be indicative of what they're gonna do?
It was definitely easier.
It was easier than the exemplars.
well, actually, it's the same questions, I believe, from the exemplars. I don't even think it's different numbers.
Whole questions for each exemplar.
Yeah, like, I recognize these. I think the big, like, the ones that you're talking about, the level 4 ones, I think it's because it's a double digit is why they're considering. Not saying, but I'm just,
But when you think about the
Bring it
level of standard,
like, the
and
actual
the
rigor.
wording that it's asking, it's not level 4 wording. That's where I was coming from with it, because to me it wasn't level 4. Yes, there were double digit numbers, but the task it was asking for was just to say which one it is, that they don't have to know what the number is at that point. So that kind of bothered me a little bit about the quarterly comprehensive. Because then it made me think, are the exemplars where they need to be, because they're showing in the red over here? Granted, I know it's year-end skills, but I don't know, just a thought that I had.
So now we go down to the student that's at row number 5.
Chelsea, which is why spiraling is gonna be
Well, that's why I wanted to say that,
Sorry, I'm comprehensive.
just to back up what I was saying.
Mars mind wanders. He is,
important.
it's wanders.
Okay, so you're in agreement that he. Okay. So now let's talk about this friend, which you've only known for a few days. So whoever had this friend right here during the interim, how do you feel about him? This is one as an outlier. So if you look over here, technically level 3, level 3, level 2.
I
And
can say something really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, just with my time with Fabio so far, he's very motivated. So he will put in the work. He seems like he will, from just my
Okay.
week and a half with him so far. So if we could do a small group more, that will definitely help him, I think.
Do you think he is a student that would benefit from after-school tutoring, PE waivers? So a PE waiver means that the student's parents sign a PE waiver. One time a week, they do not go to PE. Instead, during that time, they are essentially tutored, hopefully in like a 20-minute math, 20-minute ELA, so they're getting covered in both areas. There may be some that are just math. Do you think he would be?
Yeah, Mom has already contacted me. She's very eager to help him in any way that she can. So I think they would be very interested in that, yeah.
So I'm gonna highlight the teacher name column in blue next to the orange, so we know that we've had the conversation, we can carry it further. Yes.
sorry, I know we're gonna talk about next week, I just feel like it's imperative to say this. I know he has green, his comprehensive was very low,
For who?
Fabio. As in 29%. So just a thing to like,
Okay.
either he's not retaining it or, so sorry,
Nope.
so like that was
Good
imperative to, I know it's not up there yet.
You're
but-
the comprehensive.
I'm sorry, I get
No, that's
No,
fine.
you're
You-
fine.
You have access to all of them, so.
That's why I'm, as you're going through, I'm kind of looking at them and if there's outliers, I'm like, ooh.
So this student right here, number 7, if we look at him, this is where he's at, we know he has the potential to be a level 3. What do we feel we need to do? What would be the next step? We know that he's learning it. We know he's retaining it. We know he's there. What would be our next step? How are we gonna get him to that level 3 of proficiency?
I think that he could benefit from having like tutoring that's not,
Okay.
just to keep it strong. Like he needs to stay strong. And his comprehensive, he got a 4. Well, 75.
Okay.
So he's very strong.
He's very strong.
We want to
Yes.
keep it. We don't want to lose it because obviously last year he was a 2. So I think he could slip and slide, although we got to keep him strong.
So if we look at the sheet I handed you guys, and you look at his fast score of 285, level 2,
He's on the low end.
so he's on the low end of it, but
But it's
again, that's
beginning.
all the standards, and that's beginning. It's gonna be interesting to see his
His next.
gains on the next one.
Which he's going to get a top into this morning.
So now we're on to another one of ours who's an outlier.
Yeah.
Well, how did she do on the comprehensive?
She got a 70, 71 almost. But honestly, I feel a little, I know it looks strong on there, but I feel a bit on the
On
fence.
the fence.
Because like that 41, it could be one or the other. We're kind of teetering, so.
Well, and her fast is a good 20 points from being a 2, I believe. No, I'm sorry, she's 10 points from being a 2.
So I am going to make her. What do you call it?
Yeah, her, I'm
And I
ready.
think she does super
Yellow.
kids. So like, I think she could benefit from like tutoring and I think she would come.
Oh, I think her mom would bring her.
I feel like online for students, it just has to keep.
So that color right there, I'm gonna have watch.
Which is why during that math intervention time, that spiraling piece is gonna be very important.
Okay,
Okay,
now on to our next one.
okay, another one. Here we go. Oh yes, yeah. I feel very strongly about.
How did she do on the
She
comprehensive?
she got a 67. I just think kind of the same thing as Christian. Like we gotta keep it strong. Gotta keep it going. And I think she got a 3 last year. Or is that the fast?
She got a 2 last year on
A
FSA,
2.
a 3 on this current fast,
Oh,
and
Which
a
is
299.
barely a 3.
yeah.
Yeah, which is barely a 3.
But she got it.
But still.
She got it. And also you gotta think right now when she took fast, we didn't know this at the time, but when she took fast, there's a lot going on in her home right now. Parents are split apart.
I did notice a bit right now. She
It's-
is a
it's-
little dropping. Like her
Yes.
comprehensive, I would have liked to seen it stronger.
Yeah.
But
right now is, yeah.
yeah.
But we've put things in place through mom and through mental health team for her. But she's also one last year that, like her reading is gonna be more of her issue, I think, because she passed FSA in reading by 1. Passed summer school by 1 to be able to. So, she was a low one,
Kids in her class.
I know. But I'm saying
She missed it by.
She missed it by 1,
She missed it
sorry.
by 1.
Not passed it by 1, sorry.
I knew.
Used to-
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so now on to this little friend here. Stephanie. So he's showing strong level 1s. He's showing level 1s on technically 2 of his exemplars and a level 2.
About 37.5% of this.
37.5% on his comprehensive.
More smaller. I'm putting in effort when I'm working with him on slowing down and making sure he's reading everything correctly.
So, what do you think his weakness is? Do you think it is processes through the math problems, or do you think it's like basic number recognition, math facts?
Well, one of his things is he wants to be first up with everything. So for him, it's not about getting it right, it's about being first up.
Okay,
So working on slowing down, and I make him
Working
do
on slowing
everything
down.
3 times.
okay. So, do you think he would be a student that potentially could be a level 3? Or do you think he's one that we watch?
I think we will watch him, cause like right now I'm just working on him slowing down.
And by watching him, what are we going to do now? We know that he gets it, part of it. How are we going to keep him there, and what are we going to do to get him to the next
I
level?
put him next to like a higher student to help kind of challenge him a bit. So like right now when they're working on reflex, they're on home vacation, and she's doing a little better than he is. So he's actually trying to slow down a little bit so he could do better with her, because he wants to like match her, which is like a good motivation for him.
Perfect.
A punch card, like a reward punch card for when he doesn't finish first might help. So after 10 times of not finishing first, he gets like 5 minutes of whatever.
Yeah, he's also my bathroom crier too, so. He was in the bathroom like 7 times yesterday.
Big emotions.
Yeah.
It's the moment.
Okay. Now it's yours, Ms. Blake.
Yes, I agree totally for her to be in there. Her mom will for sure sign her up for anything. Math is definitely the area that she struggles a little bit
What
more.
was, do you have her comprehensive?
She got a 75, so she will be proficient
Perfect.
if I drag her.
Do you think, is she getting in her own way? Some of her backstory is she gets in her own way because she shuts down.
She's getting better.
Okay.
I hold her very accountable, but yeah, she does have that tendency. I'm working on it. One of the things I do is she likes to be seated near the front, so I make that happen. She does, especially in math, need more of a push. She will be proficient though.
Awesome. Now on to yours.
She goes too fast. She doesn't double check her work. We're working on that. And with Vivian, she makes simple mistakes. And I know Mr. Peters and I had a conference with the mom. You know, one of the tests, very simple question was multiples of 6, select all. She didn't write out her multiples of 6. So
She did or did not?
she did not. She did not write out her multiples of 6. So she's not doing what I'm teaching, and that's bringing her grade down, unfortunately. And so she missed the 72, 6 times 12. But I would like her to go into tutoring. I know Mom will probably be on board with that.
Quick question, when students are finished with tests, do we have them turn them in or like put them in right away? Just thinking about like the rushing things I'm hearing a couple on. So like for instance, I always have them like, okay, 2 minutes per question. So there's 12 questions, 24 minutes. And then I tell them like, you are not allowed to turn this test in until that time. That's the earliest time you could turn it in. And if you finish early, you don't check your work. You don't check your work. You restart the test.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them, because a lot of them like to be like, yep, answered, yep, answered, yep, answered. That's not checking your work.
They don't get to submit it until I look at it, and I make sure
Yeah.
every
And I
question
tell
is answered.
That's what you do. And I also tell them I don't want any pretty papers. No pretty papers. They should be ugly. Ugly papers.
Well, and that's true. If you're checking every one of them, they should show work. If they don't show work, they get it back.
Yeah. And
So they show the work.
if it took you 15 minutes to do the test the first time, it should take you 15 minutes to reprove it in a different way again and catch your mistakes.
Yeah.
So just
So-
a thought.
Isaiah,
Oh, okay.
I will say on her comprehensive, Vivian got, if I can remember correctly, 83%. But I don't know if that's a true reflection of her, it's not a true reflection of her exemplars. I felt like the comprehensive was easy, in my opinion.
Well, did she show her work on the comprehensive?
I think she did more. But,
I mean, that would be something we could look at
yeah,
and then have a conversation with her.
yes,
Because if she didn't show her work on the exemplars
right,
and went too fast, but then this one she did because you just had the meeting,
yes.
potentially, I still think she's somebody that we need to pay attention to.
Definitely. And tutoring, I think, would be good for her. Isaiah, I think he's motivated. I would like to get him in tutoring.
He's another one who does fast, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very motivated by like, incentives. So like, when he's at my team time, literally all he gets is one little candy corn. He is like
He's
the
all
leader of everything for that little candy corn.
What was his comprehensive?
His was a 33.
But my question would be, did he show his work? Did he take his time? There's all those pieces. Was he too busy worrying about everybody else? What did that environment look like for him? Because that would be my question for him.
Jump to your next one.
Yep, and she's motivated too. And I'd also like to get her tutoring.
But when you look at that, like, think about this though, when you look at that and you see, okay, here's the percentages that she got, don't even look at the colors. Here's the percentages that she got. She's slated to be a 1, this is a lower 1. Can she be proficient, which is a 3? Can she be proficient?
Not even.
No, maybe not.
So to me, she might be more of an on watch, so we can get her to the 2,
Yes,
but what we're looking for is proficiency.
you're right.
I hate saying that, but that's what we're looking
No.
for, okay?
Yeah.
So think about that when you're saying, yes, they're motivated, but is that tutoring gonna really get them to a 3?
All the way to 3, yeah.
You know, it could,
You're not.
100% it could, but we gotta think about who they are, what are the other things we can do in class, what is our small group instruction looking like? All those pieces, our intervention, how are they doing on math fluency? That's another thing to look at, cause that's gonna play a part in all of it.
Something else to think about as students are coming in the morning, that would be a great time to do some extra things with them. Simple math facts, do things with them, and as door open, as long as you're actively watching your students and doing stuff, it's okay to pull a couple over here at this time of the year to do some work with them. Okay, Mr. McFerrin.
She would be one that would be, we wouldn't need to put her just on watch, she wouldn't be one to reach proficiency.
Okay. But somebody that potentially could gain some this year.
Gain some
And
this
then-
year, but she wouldn't reach proficiency.
Okay.
Listen, we want them to gain, I know they're not counting gains, but we want them to gain, so that next year they're proficient.
Okay, so now we're down to
No, that's on watch,
Who
that's
is
we're watching, the red
yours?
is we're watching.
what was with you. Do you have any ahas on him in the last week? Like, do you see, looking at his scores, so he's really a strong level 2 according to his exemplars.
Sounds about right. I would say that it's not remembered students, so I'm a little concerned seeing the green and then how he's kind of doing in class so far. Not very motivated.
Okay. What was his
58.
58? So if you look at his quarterly comprehensive and you look at his exemplars, he's retaining what he's showing on his exemplars. How can we take him now to that next level? What do you, I know you haven't had him long, but what do you see? Do you see it maybe not showing his work? Is it that he needs to learn math facts? Is it laziness? Is it?
I think it's
Laziness, yeah.
and what's everybody else doing kind of thing.
Okay.
Like he's not wanting to be the leader of the pack, but he's sure gonna let everybody know what everybody else is doing.
Okay.
Sometimes small group instruction is best for students like that.
Lesson.
Almost all of mine, that's all.
And I know
think
you're
that's
still
all
getting your routines in place.
Yes, I'm sorry, for future, I don't mean today.
Last timekeeper is 8:26.
Oh, that's right, that clock's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to stop here today. I'm gonna challenge you guys to look at this data, start processing this data, And we will get together again and continue this process, knowing now what we're looking for. You guys have a better insight. Think about, if my student's not there, where am I gonna take them? What can I do to get them there? And if they are there, how am I going to maintain them and get them to the next level? Now, most of us are gonna have the students that are here that we need to figure out how we're getting them here. There's gonna be some students that we have to start the challenging and to keep them there, maintain, or even get them higher. So start reviewing this and we'll get back together to continue this process. This is going to take us several days. This is just math.
Then we're gonna do reading.